This regular meeting of the Detroit Lake City Council is called to order, and you're all well-trained because you're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. From the looks of this crowd, I'm probably going to miss most of Game 4 tonight for the Stanley Cup. Is it tomorrow night?
My wife's grandma's funeral.
Oh, hey, you're okay. Good. Stay late then.
All right, I take that back then. The first item on the agenda is approval of the regular agenda as presented. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes to the regular agenda?
I would, Mayor, I'd like to add to the agenda a mower for Public Works Department. I'd also like to add a HRA appointment for 2 new members. I also would like to add, we have a license agreement for a transit merchant. I'd like to add that. So I'd like to add those 3 to the night's agenda.
Okay, are there any other additions or,
Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to add item 5K, which is a resolution relative to regional park designation for the DMRA.
all right. Anything further? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda with those additions.
So move.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council. All items with an asterisk will be considered to be routine by the city council and be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any additions or deductions from the consent agenda?
Mayor Brink, I'd like to pull item 6N.
Is there any others? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with 6N removed from the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Without objection, I would like to move up item 7A on our Finance Committee. We've got our auditor here, Janelle Bitson from Bergen KDV, and she needs to travel. So I told her I would move her up in the meeting. So with that, I would ask Janelle to come forward and present her findings to the council on our audit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Janelle, you probably got to get closer to that microphone.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I do have for you tonight the results of your 2024 audit. And the first thing I wanted to cover with you are the actual reports that we issue as part of the audit process. The first one being the independent auditor's report. This report does state that the financial statements are management's responsibility, and then our responsibilities to issue an opinion based on the results of our audit. We did issue an unmodified opinion. This is what's considered a clean opinion. It states that your financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The second report we issue is a report in accordance with government auditing standards. These standards require us to look at internal controls over financial reporting, as well as compliance with various laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. When it comes to internal controls, we had one item to note, and that's the lack of segregation of accounting duties. You have seen this finding in the past. It's very common for entities of your size, and again, with the cost benefit of adding additional staff members to completely segregate doesn't really make it cost effective. And then on the compliance side, we had no instances of non-compliance to report. And the last report we issue is our report in accordance with Minnesota legal compliance. The state auditor's office gives us a list of state statutes to test compliance with each year. And we had no instances of non-compliance. So again, a clean report for the city. And then moving on from there, we've got some charts and graphs that show some financial trend information. The first one here being the general fund sources of revenue for the last 5 years. For 2024, you saw an overall increase of about 1.9%, or about $142,000. You did see some increases in the levy allocated within the general fund, and then an offsetting decrease to the intergovernmental revenues for the one-time public safety aid that you received in the prior year. The pie charts here just show in comparison where your sources of revenue were 2024 compared to 2023. Again, the taxes and the intergovernmental revenues are the areas where you see the largest changes from year to year. The next graph is the general fund expenditures. Overall, they decreased about 1.2% in 2024. The largest areas being of decrease in the snow plowing that was needed, and then the food pantry project that you had in 2023. Offsetting that, you did see some increases in culture and recreation, largely attributed to the new contract with the community center. And then the pie charts here show the percentage of the whole, the different programs where you're spending your dollars year after year. Fairly consistent with those, aside from those changes in the culture and recreation and the miscellaneous categories, as I mentioned. And then this table here shows budget to actual results. The budget column is numbers that the council approved as budget, called for essentially no change in fund balance. The actual results was an increase of about $111,000. Going into that, your revenues were about $175,000 over budget, and expenditures were about $279,000 under budget. And then you also had some variances in the transfers out of the fund. But again, fund balance in the fund increased about $111,000. Moving on to your enterprise funds. Whoops. I've got the electric fund here. This fund did show an operating increase for each of the operating income for each of the 5 years presented here. That operating income did increase in 2024. And the overall unrestricted net position did increase at the end of the year about $769,000. The water fund is next. This fund had operating income last 4 years presented here. And the overall unrestricted net position decreased about $442,000 within this fund. The wastewater fund also had operating income in each of the years presented. That operating income did decrease a little bit in 2024. But overall, the unrestricted net position still increased about $750,000 for the year. And then the liquor fund is the last fund here. This fund also had operating income in each of the years presented. And overall, the net position decreased about $365,000 after transfers out. So kind of a quick summary of the year. We went through a little more detail with the finance meeting prior to this, but certainly open to any questions that any of you might have.
Does anyone in the council have any questions for Janelle? Hearing none, I would call on the finance chair, Mike Stearns.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So Finance Committee, as was mentioned, that we had previously viewed this at the 3 o'clock meeting. So we have item 7A1, consideration to the acceptance of the 2024 audit report. Like I said, committee reviewed, and I so move for approval.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve and accept the 2024 audit. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. I forgot to do the minutes. The minutes of the regular city council meeting held May 13th, 2025 are before the council. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council who wishes to make any changes to the minutes as printed? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
So move.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 13th, 2025. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. At this time, I'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed vacation of the dedicated public road in the plat of Kerfman Beach at 144 and 150 Shorewood Drive. And I would call on our city staff to introduce this item this evening. Larry?
This is a request from Drew Larson to vacate the unused right-of-way that goes through these two lots on Shorewood Drive. In exchange for that, he would provide the city with easements in a location where the road is located and that we would need for future development and use of Shorewood Drive. So the unused portion needs to be vacated so that he can use the lot to its full extent.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or wishes to make a comment regarding the proposed vacation of the dedicated road in the plat of Kerfman Beach? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. Wendy?
Mayor, the Community Development Committee reviewed this yesterday.
Wendy,
And-
use your mic a little
Is it?
closer.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Is that better?
Yeah.
Any better? The Community Development Committee reviewed this yesterday, and we recommend approval of a resolution vacating a portion of the dedicated public road in the plat of Kerfman Beach at 144 and 150 Shorewood Drive.
Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution vacating a portion of the dedicated public road in the plat of Kerfman Beach at 144 and 150 Shorewood Drive. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Excuse me. I don't think Mr. Wendell is here, so I'll jump down and at this time I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed assessments for the Forest Street and Utility Improvement Project. And I'll call on our city engineer, John Pratt, to introduce this. John?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have an assessment hearing for the proposed Forest Street improvements. Per usual, the purpose of this meeting is this project does involve special assessments to some of the adjacent properties for the proposed street and utility improvements. Provide an opportunity to take questions and comments concerning those assessments, and it is also a requirement of state statute to hold this hearing. So we'll do a little project background and then overview of what the proposed improvements are, and then we'll get into what the costs and special assessments are, and there'll be an opportunity for questions and comments after that. So again, as a reminder, the Forest Street project includes Forest Street from Rossman Avenue to Lake Avenue. The remaining portion of Forest was done previously with the South Washington project. Started work on the project over a couple of years ago, getting it on our capital improvement plan due to the condition of the street. Back in the summer of '24, we started preliminary design, some of the survey and things of that nature. And then over the course of the last winter, we worked on design and permitting and bid the project this spring, which has led us to construction this summer. Just as a reminder, as far as existing conditions, there really is no sanitary sewer on the street. All the adjacent properties are served from side streets. There is, however, a large 12-inch trunk line water main through the project area that comes out of the water treatment plant. It is roughly, or at least 70 years old. We've got a couple other branch mains coming off of that at Summit Avenue. Those are all cast iron pipe and well beyond their service life. As far as stormwater goes, there is some stormwater at various locations. It's in fair condition, somewhere in the area of 40 to 50 years old, but no real significant issues in that area related to drainage or stormwater, other than we have a limited number of catch basins. The street was probably the largest driving factor on the project. Anybody that's drove the project would understand this. It was in very, very poor condition. Age varies to somewhat unknown. It's been patched, it's been repaired, it's effectively at the end of its life. There are some sidewalks just on the north side of the street right now. Portions of those do not meet current ADA standards. So the proposed project includes replacement of that 12-inch trunk water main throughout the entire length of the project with a 12-inch PVC main. There are a few chunks of PVC pipe at some of the intersections that we'll leave in place. We'll also add some new hydrants and isolation valves, and there are no service laterals that we're aware of within the area serving the adjacent properties. Again, those properties are served from adjacent streets. Despite the storm sewer being in good shape, unfortunately, we do need to replace it because it's the shallowest utility, and to get to the other stuff, we have to remove that. So we will replace that as needed, just to facilitate the other improvements, and add a few inlets just to improve some of the capture capacity and meet some of the current requirements that we're required to follow. The street itself, we're gonna replace with a 44-foot wide bituminous surface street. So this will really match the section that was previously constructed between Washington and Lake. So that does result in a street that's 2 to 3 feet wider on both sides than what was there existing. That increased width, we decided, was necessary just to better accommodate some of the on-street parking that does happen in that area when there's events at the park and down at the beach and things like that. And the street's commonly used for a detour when Westlake Drive is closed down. We also will be doing some sidewalk work, pretty much putting the sidewalk back on the north side, real similar to the existing configuration. However, we are gonna add a 6-foot sidewalk between Rossman and Summit on the south side of the road, basically the north side of Peoples Park. And that one will have a turf boulevard between the sidewalk and the street. So on to costs, as I mentioned, we opened bids here roughly a month ago. They came in very, very good. Overall, the project is down about $400,000 from the preliminary estimate that we had at the time of the public hearing. You can see the numbers in front of you, the largest component being the street at just over $1 million. About $300,000 in water main improvements and about $250,000 in stormwater improvements, bringing us to that $1.6 million project cost. As far as project costs and financing, the city will pay for the project by a combination of city utility funds and general tax levy. This is also part of our municipal state aid street system, so we can access some of our MSA funds for construction costs with the project, and we plan to do that. And then the third piece is special assessments to the adjacent property owners. City's got an assessment policy that aims to spell all this out and how we allocate all these costs. Essentially for this project, sewer and water in this case, the city does assume 100% of the sanitary sewer and water main costs. This is a relatively recent change to the city's assessment policy. We used to assess those components or a portion of those components, I should say, to the adjacent property owners. We no longer do that. The utility funds pay for those 100%. However, service laterals off of those mains are assessed 100% to the adjacent properties. Street reconstruction, a little bit more complex. It's effectively a 50-50 split between the city and assessments for a standard street. And a standard street's termed to be a 36-foot wide, 5-ton bituminous surface street. So anything over that, anything wider, anything built heavier, the city assumes that oversizing costs. Sidewalk, we assess 25% to residential properties and 50% to commercial properties. The city also pays 100% of the costs related to storm sewer and any sort of streetscapes like tree plantings and things like that. So based on all that, this is the end result of that. The assessable share of the project ends up being about $316,000, and the city's share of the project is just about $1.3 million. I'd point out that assessable share, that $300,000, does include a pretty large chunk to city-owned property. We assess ourselves for property that the city owns. So we have Peoples Park, which effectively spans a couple of blocks there. And so a portion of that cost is a city cost. But in totality here, we're looking at the city picking up about 80% of the overall project cost, with less than 20% being assessed to the adjacent properties. So how do we allocate and spread those costs out? Again, the special assessment policy spells that out. We effectively take the assessable costs and divide them by the available assessable footage to determine a cost per foot. So the footage calculations, if you're a rectangular interior lot, it's just simply the width of your lot that's abutting the improvement. Corner lots are a little bit more complex. It's the dimension of the smaller side, which is considered your front side, plus half the dimension of the longer side, up to 150 feet, plus anything over that 150 feet. So what that means is you get up to a 75-foot credit on your side lot or your long side of your property. But you're only assessed for the sides of your property that are abutting the improvement. So it's important to know that in this particular case, because a lot of the adjacent properties that are abutting Forest Street are side lot properties. So they have a long side adjacent to Forest Street, so we only assess them essentially half of that length. And any irregular shaped lots, we do our best to try to assign sort of an average dimension to those. Service laterals, on the other hand, are on an each basis, which is irrelevant in this case. So the table that's on the screen right now summarizes what the assessment rates were calculated at. So for a residential property, the street and sidewalk assessment is about $118 a foot versus a commercial property is paying close to $176 a foot. So a 50-foot residential lot's looking at an assessment of about $5,900. If you had a 75-foot residential lot, which there are a number of those that are in that area, are just a little less than $9,000 per lot. And then I threw on there a 500-foot commercial lot. We do have something like that on this project with Rossman School. I think they have over 500 feet actually, and so they're looking at about an $88,000 special assessment. Terms and conditions, so assessments will be levied against the developed or the benefiting property starting in 2026. We levy those assessments over a 20-year term. Property owners have the option to pay all or a portion of those special assessments at any time. Just like any loan, it would reduce or eliminate interest charges depending on what you do there. But that is an option. The city does also have a deferral policy for specific property owners. So some of the qualifications are 65 years of age or older, permanently disabled, and/or military personnel on active duty that meet the following. They own the property, fee simple ownership in the property, must be homesteaded, and then there are some income requirements associated with that. So in those cases, if you qualify, it's deferred without, a special assessment would be a deferred without interest until sale, death of owner, it's no longer homesteaded, or there's no longer a hardship. If there's property owners here that are interested in that, there's applications available at City Hall. That is an application that has to be filed every year prior to November 15th, and there's a $10 fee. So if anybody in the audience is interested in that, they can stop down at City Hall and talk to Heidi, and she can help you with that. Just a couple of quick comments on construction. We did get a construction notice out earlier, late last week, I believe. We did start work on this project today. So they'll be working in the area between Rossman and Minnesota initially. Later in the summer, we will have Rossman Avenue closed for up to about 14 days. Overall, the project is expected to last into the first to mid part of August. So that's it, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, John. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or wishes to make a comment? Do you have a question or a comment?
I have a question about, I'm a property owner.
Okay, yep.
Can I come up?
Absolutely. And would you state your name and address for our minutes, please?
Sure.
Thank you, and get the mic closer to you so we can hear you.
Okay,
Thank
can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and City Council, my name is Sally Marlin, and I live on 1264 Summit Avenue. I'm on the corner of Summit and Forest, and right across from my house is the park, and then to the right of my house is the pond and then the school, distantly, I'm on that corner there. This is a request for consideration of the proposed assessment for the Forest Street Utility Improvement Project. acknowledge that the street needs to be repaved, and I'm all for, improvements in our cities. I will be 65 years old this fall. I am still working full-time at Medivan in Detroit Lakes. Last fall, I had to replace my over 20-year-old heater. I had to take out a second mortgage for heating and air through Mid-Minnesota Credit Union. I would call myself on the low-income bracket. Upon receiving the assessment of $8,799.94 for the road improvement, which I soon realized would cause me financial hardship. On the way home from work on June 3rd, I went over to a homeowner on Westlake Drive, east of El Loro Restaurant. He told me the homeowners along Westlake Drive did not have to pay any special assessments. They had actually won a lawsuit and were paid for their land. Most of the properties on Detroit Lake are worth several hundred thousands to the millions. None of these lake homeowners are paying for the road. Maybe there's something I don't understand about the process, but this seems unfair to the common, regular, non-vacation residents of Detroit Lakes. Also, every block has an intersection which creates four corners for properties in that intersection. This is how the city was planned. Therefore, I am taxed on two streets. In front of my home, parents are parked every afternoon to pick up students. Zorbas overflow on evenings and weekends. Skateboard parking, county fair, Wee Fest, water carnival parade, farmers market, 4th of July, Polar Fest, pickleball, hockey and gymnastics events, school events, and other tourism parking. As a resident, I feel that I am paying for the tourism of Detroit Lakes, which I receive no compensation from. I am asking for consideration or forgiveness of this assessment because of the financial hardship it would cause me. If you need verification of my income, my first and second mortgage, I'd be glad to provide that. So that's my request.
Okay, you had a couple of comments in there that I think we should clear up. Kelsey, will you explain how the Westlake Drive project was financed briefly?
First of all, Westlake Drive was a county road, so basically the county funded the road improvements.
Okay. And you had one other question about another area, didn't you?
Okay, but is that fair for the residents, the regular residents who are non-vacation people to get taxed at a high rate when the people who have lake homes, who obviously make a lot of more money, are not taxed at all? Or I guess I don't how much traffic is in front of my house? It could be a state highway, especially I moved here from a small town and I didn't even know what Zorbas was, so I had no idea, where I was actually purchasing a property. But I guess, I'm all for, the improvement of our city and all that kind of stuff. I would like at least, I'm asking for forgiveness of it or a special consideration for lowering that amount, because last year I actually got a 25-cent raise working at Medivan. And this year, because my house was built in 1930, it's a really old heater, I had to put in a new heater. And I had to choose between having health insurance and having heat, so I chose heat. So just asking for special consideration or just whatever. I don't know how this process works. I thought there'd be like 3 people here. I had no idea there'd be a whole room, so I'm kind of nervous, but
So one of the things you mentioned was getting assessed for double because you're on a corner lot. John, you wanted to explain how a corner lot is assessed, just
Yeah.
to reiterate?
Mayor and council, the assessment policy that's currently adopted addresses corner lots. She is correct, they get assessed for both sides effectively. So you pay 100% of your front footage, meaning the short side of your lot. And you do get assessed for that side lot at a 50% rate up to 150 feet, plus anything over that 150 feet. And that is the assessment policy as it stands. And
Okay.
it's been that way as long as I can remember.
Okay, Sally, well, we appreciate your comments and
Okay, and
Sure,
should
the
I give a
council will
copy
take
of
it.
this to somebody, or
Pardon?
do I give a copy of
Yeah,
this to
you
somebody?
can give it to our city clerk, Carrie, right over here.
And Mayor, if she would like, she can apply for the deferral
Right.
here at City Hall, so.
Right.
That's good.
So Sally, you should come in and talk to Heidi, who's the woman on the right, and talk to her about a deferral, okay? Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak to the issue of the proposed assessments for Forest Street? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed, and I would again call on the Community Development Committee Chair, Wendy.
That was on Public Works, and
Oh, that was on public, okay.
I would, our Public Works Department, we reviewed this project, and I so move to approve the proposed assessments for Forest Street for the street utility works of this project, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the proposed assessments for the Forest Street project. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Without objection, I'd like to move to the Finance Committee, item 7C, which is the request from the Minnesota Flyers Gymnastics. And I would turn that over to Mike.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at item 7C, the Minnesota Flyers came into our committee meeting this afternoon and presented a request. The request was for up to $500,000. There was a lot of discussion on that dollar amount, and City Administrator Kelsey Clem did provide a nice summary of a recommendation for a reduced amount, but what our committee felt was a pretty favorable end result. There has been some prior costs paid on behalf of the project by the city, including some demolition and parking lot improvements. So what committee landed on was, based upon the recommendations made, that the city council or the city contribute $10,000 a year for over 5 years, with those funds to come from the liquor fund, and then also an additional $35,000 per year for 5 years, with those funds to come from the campground fund, the Legion Park Campground. So the final discussion was a total of $225,000 between those two funds over a period, for a total of that over 5 years, not per year. Committee discussed that in great length, and I so move for approval.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the funding request for the Minnesota Flyers as Mike outlined. Is there discussion or questions from the council? Or is anyone from the Flyers wish to make any additional comments besides what you did today at the committee?
I think Lisa would.
Go ahead. Okay, Lisa. If you guys would just identify yourself. We don't need to know your address, though.
My name is Lisa Lingard, and I'm the Executive Director of Minnesota Flyers.
And I'm Beth Priddy. I'm the consultant for the Minnesota Flyers Capital Campaign.
Dear Mr. Mayor and the City of Detroit Lakes Council, I am here on behalf of Minnesota Flyers to propose a partnership with the City of Detroit Lakes to support the Movement Matters Capital Campaign. This initiative aims to expand the Flyers facility at 1306 Rossman Avenue, meeting growing demands for our services and enhance youth and adult development opportunities in our community. We respectfully request a city contribution of $450,000, recognizing the $50,000 from the public utilities to help make this transformative project a reality. Minnesota Flyers has been a cornerstone to Detroit Lakes community since 1997, fostering physical fitness, competence, inclusion for all ages and abilities, and leadership in 800 athletes weekly. The program's diverse offerings include gymnastics, ninja, homeschool fitness, and our Fly Time program that is designed for adults and children with special needs. We have enriched countless lives. Notably, the Flyers have developed and hosted the Detroit Lakes High School gymnastics team, contributing to 6 Minnesota State High School League championships, including the most recent this year's title 2025 and elevating the city's reputation as a hub for athletic excellence. The current 12,000 square foot facility is at capacity, with growing wait lists of athletes unable to enroll due to space constraints. The proposed expansion will increase the facility to 34,000 square feet, adding dedicated spaces for physical therapy, sensory room, fly time, and expanded programming. This will allow Minnesota Flyers to serve more youth and adults of all ages and abilities, reduce wait lists, and introduce new community-focused initiatives like day camps and homeschool programs. The $3.85 million project has already secured $2.3 million in pledges and donations, demonstrating a strong community support. We've additionally been awarded the New Market Tax Credit of $860,000. Partnering with Minnesota Flyers aligns with the City of Detroit Lakes' commitment to enhancing recreational opportunities and the community vitality. The expanded facility will attract families and boost local economic activity, much like the other city-supported entities and projects. Additionally, the Flyers' nonprofit status has proven financial stewardship to ensure that this investment will yield long-term benefits without ongoing city funding. We are eager to discuss this partnership further and explore how the city can support and amplify the Minnesota Flyers' impact. Thank you for considering this opportunity to invest in our community and highlight the strength of Detroit Lakes community.
Okay, Beth, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. but
Okay.
I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, any questions for the folks from the Flyers?
Can you make a promise you're not gonna come here 3 years from now and not ask for any more city money?
I think that's already been proven, Mr. Dahlman. They have been in existence for 25 years. They raised $1 million in private funds. The city purchased the building for $1, and in 25 years, they've not requested any kind of bailout, assistance with their operating, or any additional funding.
I'm just gonna bring something up. The first, I'm for this, okay? I'm just asking you, are you gonna come here 3 years from now and ask for more money? Because when we originally presented this, we agreed to $25,000 for the parking lot and the building, okay? Now that's changed, you guys are here asking for money from the city. Okay, I serve on the Public Safety Committee, and this city's gotta buy some new fire trucks. So I just wanna make sure, hearing from you guys, you're not gonna come here 3 years later and ask for more money. That's a fair question.
I mean, that would determine on what number you guys propose to us today. We're asking the 450, and again, thank the, and recognize the public utility for the 50,000 that they have already contributed.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
go ahead, Ron.
Okay, it was back in February 8th of 2024, we had a meeting over at the police hall, and it was in regards to your financing of this proposal. And at that time, you said that you had things pretty well worked out and that you were going to talk to Steve Daggett from Midwest Bank. And then the next meeting we had, Mr. Daggett came to that meeting and he gave us this letter. And it's addressed to the City of Detroit Lakes Finance Committee. As you're aware, Midwest Bank is working with the Minnesota Flyer Gymnastics to provide financing for expansion of their existing facilities. While this building expansion of the City of Detroit Lakes property, any financing provided by Midwest Bank will not include the building as collateral. Additionally, he said if he would take over this management for all finances, nothing would happen until we raised the entire amount of money of $4 million before we'd break ground, but we've already broke ground and we still haven't raised that $4 million. But additional financing would not directly or indirectly be obligated by the City of Detroit Lakes or its taxpayers. And so at that time, we understood that you were going to carry the ball by yourself on it. And as I mentioned to you before, we've got lots of projects. There's many organizations in town that love to have city fundings to help them with their projects. I know we've got 2 other dance groups in towns that have big groups too, and they're all would like to have funding too, but we feel that this amount that we decided to give you today is more than fair for you.
Okay, Any further comments from the council? We have a motion and a second on the floor.
I just want to, I know the finance committee probably covered all these bases, but I just want for my own understanding is these funds will come out of the liquor store fund, the $10,000. And it seems like we reach into that quite often, and I just want to make sure that that's a viable fund, that whenever these projects come up and we, liquor store fund, and I'm sure you guys again have considered all that, but I just want to, for my own sense.
Kelsey?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, that was considered in the recommendation based upon what our current fund balance is and what our commitments are over the next few years. So again, it'd be $10,000 a year out of the liquor fund and then $35,000 a year out of the campground fund for a total of,
And that would leave the campground fund with around $65,000 a year?
we're currently, the revenue is about $100,000 per year. So it would take up basically a third of that annual proceeds be committed to the gymnastics.
And our interest in this also includes the fact that we are the owners of the building in which they are doing business, correct? It's not just,
It's on city land, and then the building itself is then owned by the city. So it's basically free land, free parking, and we maintain the parking lot, plow it, maintain it, stripe it.
one last question. The entire amount that you include in the packet, both of these considerations are total of $359,100. That does not include the parking lot, or it does?
It includes the immediate parking lot, the roughly $50,000 in paving right around the building.
But not the,
As I emphasized in that memo, we're not doing the full parking lot now, but that's,
so that'll be an additional cost to that
it's on the
particular
horizon.
space.
It's a liability that has to be done at some point in the future.
And I should mention too that we have that, the food and beverage tax is what pays for these parking lots, and right now we're 4 or 5 years out of what we've got coming in for that food and beverage already, so there's a limit to how much we can give on that too.
Okay, any further questions from the council? We have a motion and a second on the table. If there's no further questions, I'll call the issue. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Without objection, I would like to move to item 6B and 6C on the agenda, which has to do with the Minnesota state flag.
Okay, Your
And I
Honor.
would call on the Public Works Chairman Zeman.
Your Honor, on item 6B, we give a consideration to rescinding the decision of the council meeting on March 11, 2025, meeting that the city should fly the official state flag, and I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
So there's a motion and a second to rescind the action previously taken to fly the official Minnesota state flag. I know there are people in the audience that wish to make a comment, but if you could hold your comments until after we make the decision on whether or not we rescind, that'd probably make more sense. So with that, I guess I would call the question. All in favor of rescinding, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, I'm hearing about an equal amount. So I'll take a roll call. Jay?
Rescind. Aye.
Sean?
Nay.
Jackie?
You missed Mike.
Oh, I skipped Mike, sorry.
It's like being at home. Nay.
And now Jackie.
Nay.
Ron?
Rescind.
Wendy?
nay.
Aaron?
Rescind.
Craig?
Rescind.
So it's a tie, which gives me the opportunity as the mayor to vote, and I don't get to vote very often. But in this case, I believe it was the intention last month that the council wanted to rescind this and take another look at what we should do moving forward. And fortunately, tonight we are missing one of the council members. So I'm going to vote in favor of rescinding. And so the motion carries. And with that, we would be at item C then, Ron.
Okay, and for item C, I'm gonna turn that over to Councilmember Aaron Dahlman.
I'd like to consider to determine the city of Detroit Lakes should fly a Minnesota state flag. So I'm making a motion that we don't fly either flag.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Now, I'm sure there's folks here that want to speak to the issue, and if all of you speak, probably be here all night. So I gotta limit the time a little bit. I don't know if I'll put a time limit on it right away, but if it starts getting too lengthy and we start repeating ourselves or going over ground we've already covered, I'm gonna start restricting from that point. And please, when you come to the podium, if you'd state your name and address for our record again. And also, please make all your comments to me as the chairman. I don't want any back and forth with any of the council members from the audience. So with that, does anyone, go ahead, Todd. Yeah. And we get your name and address. Try to keep it as brief as.
If I can remember my name.
Okay.
My name is Todd Simison at 1774 East Shore Drive. I am a lifetime resident of Detroit Lakes, graduated from Detroit Lakes, and love Detroit Lakes. Kind of a lifer. Last session, we briefly went over the details of the original flag. I think most everyone was here except for Jackie, so I'm not going to cover that all over again. Just want to move over to the new flag, I guess, what I would call the new flag. I don't know that everybody knows this or not, but that flag was voted on by 13 people. A committee of 13 people. We have roughly just under 6 million people in our state. And of those 6 million people, only 13 got to vote. I personally don't think that's right. 13 people making a decision for 6 million people. I know when I turn around here, there's veterans in the audience that fought for our country. They didn't get a chance to vote either on this flag. Definitely not right. Next, I want to just move on that we're not alone in the flag action. I know when some of us came forward and started talking to the council, some of the council had not heard of this and so on. This is very common throughout the state of Minnesota right now. There are 12 cities that we could find online that have some sort of flag action going on, and many of them are tourist communities just like ours. Brainerd, North Branch, Park Rapids, Wilmer, Pine River, Breezy Point, Pequot Lakes. I didn't read all of them. There are more. And of that, in our state, there's 11 counties that have flag action going on. And I would guess that includes our own, that decided not to fly the flag. The last session, we wanted to compromise and remove the flag with the agreement of not flying either flag at all. I guess I thought that was a really good compromise myself. Apparently, some false technicality kept us from doing that. So we all came forward thinking, hey, we probably have the votes to put this thing together. And then we got here and kind of got shot down. In my opinion, last session, this would have all been solved if we wouldn't have had that technicality. Basically, I'm just saying I brought a when I made my speech last time, I felt I brought a great compromise to the table. this evening, I just want to say thanks to the folks that came here to support this. I don't feel that everybody here wants to compromise and not fly the flag. I think there's a good majority of them in here that would rather just fly our traditional, original flag. So when you guys make your decision, maybe thinking of compromise and how we can all compromise together and reach a decision that is good for everyone. And that we can be proud of that decision when people drive from Fargo-Moorhead to our community to spend money and to visit, be proud of the decision that we made. So, thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Celeste, go ahead, yeah. State your name, please, and your address.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Celeste Copy. I live at 303 Willow Street West in town. I don't really want to be up here speaking right now, but I just, there are some corrections to the previous statements, Mayor, that I'd like to audibly make known to the room. So in 2023, the Minnesota State Legislature, so the people we elected, empowered a commission. So this is how, when we think about these matters at state government, how they are working. And so the people we elected in the legislature empowered a commission to redesign the state seal and flag. So they had a very robust process that actually cost us a lot of money for public engagement. And through this robust public engagement process, over 2,000 designs were submitted for the new flag. Yes, there were 13 members who ultimately voted on this, but again, they were empowered by the people that we elected to make these decisions. It's a democratic process. And my feeling today is I'm up here asking the council to respect a democratic process. And I'm disappointed that I'm up here asking the council to respect this democratic process, because I do feel like they should be knowledgeable about this process and respecting it without additional discussion that we are now taking up for the third time at these meetings. But for further information on this democratic process, after over 2,000 designs were collected, they did vote on it. They asked for Minnesotans to weigh in on this flag. So there were multiple areas in which anyone in the room could have, I follow politics pretty darn closely. I got a political science degree, all that good stuff, and I was watching this come through. It was on Facebook, it was on the nightly news, it was everywhere. We had a lot of chances to weigh in. But now I'm feeling that we've already talked about this a lot, so I'm just gonna end there after I've made audible the process that was made possible for everyone to engage in. And I just would, again, respect you to respect the legislators that have empowered the commission, who then, that's how we got to the 13 people. And finally, as for the 11 counties, I would say we have 87 counties in Minnesota. So that is by no means a majority. We have quite a few counties. And I don't want to go into this in, when we talk about who comes to town, who doesn't. But oftentimes I find myself leaving town because I have friends and relatives all over the country that know that this is a very conservative place and do not wish to come and visit. So when we talk about the economic impacts, I've been to Atlanta 5 times in the last year instead of people coming here because of decisions like whether or not we fly the state flag and who feels safe here. So if anything, I'd urge us to be more welcoming here, because the economics show that when we're more welcoming, we earn more money. And with that, I will leave this open for the next person who wishes to speak. Thank you all.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Larry Lighthizer, 1210 Richwood Road. This new flag represents more negative than it does positive. As Todd said, 13 people, that's not due process. And the end of the day, it's gonna have about as much positive effect as changing a box of rice or a bottle of maple syrup. That's it.
Not as fast as I used to be.
Not like the old days, Bob.
That's right. My name is Bob Beckeris. I live at 126 Shorewood Drive. I'm opposed to the new flag. To me, the old flag is a part of Minnesota's history. And I don't believe, even though some things are disagreeable that have happened in the past, I don't think that's a good reason to change the seal or the flag. For example, the way I feel about it is, I don't know how many people in here have the history book on the city of Detroit Lakes. Do a bunch of the council members have that? Well, the way I feel about the flag is that maybe you should take that history book of DL and the year 1949, because you don't like it prior to that, rip that book in half and take and burn this part that's previous in 1949, because that's the way I feel about the flag. So history stands for itself. It should be recognized. It should be recognized. Thank you.
Marga?
Hi, thank you, council, for giving us some time. Forgive me, I'm actually gonna have to read this because if I wanna make it quick, I need to remember what I was gonna say.
Would you give us your name and address, please?
Oh, yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
Marga Ybarra, and I am at 303 Sherman Street in Detroit Lakes. Okay. So our traditional Minnesota flag, designed in 1893 by Amelia Hyde, Center of Minneapolis, and embroidered by Norwegian immigrants Pauline and Thomas Feld, was exhibited and won a gold medal at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893. Our flag has a rich history and much symbolism and makes Minnesotans proud. We're here today because, much like other symbols in our nation, our traditional Minnesota flag is now being targeted, and the reasons for it aren't fully justified, nor were the people of Minnesota allowed to vote on it. This new flag is actually devoid of any actual historical meaning, and due to various outside influences, the Minnesota legislature did in fact in 2023 establish the State Emblems and Redesign Committee. There were 13 people who sat on this committee and asked for revised drawings of the new flag, and a little over 2,600 drawings were submitted, and one was chosen by a graphic designer, 25 years old, Andrew Precker. While this flag is intended to be inclusive, we must remember that its revised meaning is also exclusive of the majority of Minnesotans. We didn't get to vote. This flag would seem to have been influenced by outside sources, and it appears closer to that of some of our, I'm sorry to say, but some of our Somalian communities. This you can actually look up, and you can look at some of the regions and what their flags look like. If we remove our traditional flag, our next up-and-coming generations will not know the meaning and the history of their beautiful state. History is fast being erased on both the global and federal level. We must but do we have to continue this tradition here at our local level? Just as the people in Minnesota were not afforded the opportunity to decide, as a council, please remember your constituents and please allow them their voice.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All the clapping is just gonna keep us here longer. And we are starting to get maybe a little redundant, so if we could shorten it up, it'd be great. Go ahead, sir, your name and address.
My name is Brian Alstein. I live at 1041 Timber Drive. Thank you for this opportunity to address the council and you, Mr. Mayor. I'll trim down a lot of what I had to say. But the one thing, when Minnesota dropped this flag on us, they didn't require that the cities or the counties do anything. So I would ask that we do nothing first. So save us taxpayer dollars. I don't want to see the new flag up because I don't want to pay the taxes to do that. I also dislike the new flag a lot. So that's one thing. Second, some have tried to turn this into a left versus right issue. I take exception to that. It is not a left-right issue. This is more of a Twin Cities versus Greater Minnesota issue. I've lived in both places. I love both places. We're the same people. Some would try to drive a wedge between us. I think that's wrong. We are all Minnesotans, but this flag serves to drive a wedge between us. It's a Twin Cities flag. It's not a Greater Minnesota flag. We have a lot of pride in our flag and what it represents. Greater Minnesota has contributed a lot to what was on the traditional flag. We have historically been politely silent as the squeaky wheel of the Twin Cities gets all the grease. I think it's time for us to squeak. We have a great legacy and a valid culture, and much of it, as says, is courtesy of Greater Minnesota. So the bottom line, I don't want the new flag. I don't want to pay for it with my tax dollars. I'd rather see nothing than the new flag up there, but I'd really rather see the traditional flag restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine, hi.
Janine Schneider, 1011 Villa Lane. And my husband and I have lived here pretty much all of our lives. We both graduated from high school here too, as if that counts for anything. But my point is, we did get a chance to vote on that flag if you bothered to go online and do it. And that was not my first choice. However, it is our state flag. You have historically flown the state flag, am I correct?
I think so.
I think you need to keep doing it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Ruth.
I'm Ruth Soley. I live at 1220 Minnesota Avenue. Last night, I downloaded the agenda for tonight's meeting and noticed that it was 426 pages long. I think that the council has a lot of important business, and to be addressing this issue multiple times takes a lot of valuable time from what the council should be doing. I was involved in the process. I had my grandchildren involved in the process of the flag. I happen to like the new flag. It wasn't the actual one I voted for, because I did go in and vote on the flag of my choice. I think Detroit Lakes is a progressive, happy, bustling, energetic town, and to fly an outdated flag, regardless of how you feel about the new flag, is the wrong message for our community, for its citizens and those who visit us. And I urge you to continue to fly the new flag. Thank you.
Okay. So you're right, we do have a lot on the agenda besides this. So how many more people, will you raise your hand? How many more people want to talk? Just a couple more? Okay, fine.
Hi, sorry, my throat got pretty dry sitting there. Joseph Malakowski, 320 Elm Street West, apartment 109. Council members, mayor, I stand before you here to urge you to I had to modify this because I didn't quite know how this was gonna turn out. I urge you to not fly either flag. The traditional Minnesota flag has real history of the state. It shows the farmers, the loggers, the veterans and the working families who built our towns. The new flag is abstract and completely disconnected from any roots that we have. We do not need to replace our heritage. To move forward, we have to honor it and keep displaying it proudly. It tells the full story of Minnesota. One other thing that I would like to add very quickly is it was brought up that this was voted on by a citizens commission, a commission, because we voted for the legislature. It was commissioned by the people in a sense. This may be true. However, we have been in essence historically, and always continue, moving forward, will always be a bottom-up system despite what we were told. The city can do what it pleases, the county can do what it pleases, and the state will listen. That's how it is. So I urge you to not fly either flag. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there was, And I think this is the last person. I think. Go ahead, your name, sir.
My name is Zach Foltz. I live at 1219 Roosevelt Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I am in support of flying the official state of the flag of the Minnesota. It is important to remember we are all neighbors and have more common than not. Given that, we cannot let the politicization that is at the national and state level creep into city politics. The job of city government is to call balls and strikes and help people of the Detroit Lakes area with goods and services. At this point, no one here can change the fact that the official flag was changed, and the only argument to be made in good conscience is to continue flying the official state flag or to not fly a state flag at all. Thank you.
Thank you. So at some point, we're gonna wrap this up, and when we do, I'm assuming a bunch of you are gonna leave. And when you do, if I could ask you to just, if you have further things you wanna talk to your neighbors about, if you could take it out into the lobby so we can get into the rest of our business tonight, so. With that, we have a motion and a second, I would open it up. I would close down the public comments and I would open it up to the council for any additional comments. Sean?
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, I've thought long and hard about this over the last few months. And to be frank, I don't really like the new flag as much as I like the old flag. I think a lot of points that were made tonight are valid. But that said, we are a city in Minnesota. And I think first and foremost, we should be flying a Minnesota flag. We are the largest city in our county. And we are a tourist community, and we have historically flown a flag for, well, as long as I've been coming here, which is longer than it used to be. I also think that we should separate ourselves a little bit from our opinion, and that we should actually codify that we will fly whatever the official flag of Minnesota is. This is not a city issue, this is a state issue. And I think that for anyone who doesn't like this, everyone in this room who doesn't like the new flag or thinks it should be different, and everyone who has a neighbor who doesn't like the flag and thinks it should be different, you should write and email and call your legislator. Because this is a state issue, and that's where the change really truly needs to happen. And I think we should participate as a city and fly the official flag. And let this be something we take to the state legislature. And finally, and I'll be done, I promise, whatever decision we make tonight, I think everybody up here and everybody in this room, we all need to be ready to accept it and move on and take care of the business of our city. Thank you. Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Jackie, I think you have
Yeah, I
some.
do. I just, I have a few things that I'd like to comment on. I understand that everybody, has their opinion about the flag, and I have an opinion about the flag too. And I appreciate the passion behind your opinions and your views. However, the process to redesign the state flag was a legislative decision. It invited citizen participant through design submissions and public input, and the final design was approved. Yes, it was 13 people, but it was approved through the legislative process. That is not a city issue. It is a state issue. If there's a disagreement with that outcome, that concern is best directed towards the legislators who ultimately approved through this commission and signed off on the new flag. I've heard a few concerns. I've heard from people who want the new flag. I've heard from people who want the old flag. I've heard from people who want no flag. This is a very divisive and unfortunate situation for our city. I even had one person suggest that people will stop coming to Detroit Lakes because of the flag. I specifically talked to a few businesses that are flying the new, now official Minnesota flag, and asked them if there's anybody that has come to them and said they're not going to do business with them because they're flying the flag. And no one could say that their business is impacted by flying the official state flag. So I think that's opinion. I don't think that's fact. Choosing not to fly the official state flag sends a message that our community does not wish to be part of the broader Minnesota identity. It also sets a troubling precedent that whenever there's a disagreement with a decision, we simply opt out. We're just not going to do it. That's not the direction I think we should go as a city. This is an opportunity to move forward. I've had more people say, why is this even an issue, than whether they like the flag or not. Why are we spending time on this issue? That's what people are questioning me about. So let's work on important priorities for our city that truly matter and continue to showcase all the positive things that are happening. Let's not make headlines because we can't agree on a flag and we have opinions on whether we like it or don't like it and who's saying what and how divisive this is as a city. This is not the way we want to show up in Minnesota. So for those of you, again, these are strong opinions and I appreciate that, but this is a legislative issue. And as Sean said, if you don't like the flag and you don't like the way it happened, bring it to your legislators. It's not a city issue. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments?
I'd like to make a few comments, please. One thing is,
Okay,
if
Jay.
it was, as I stated last month, it was such a important issue by the legislature, why did they allow cities and counties to make a decision if they want to fly the new flag or not? Number two, one of the speakers called the old flag outdated. Well, if we're going to call our history outdated, then when is somebody going to call the whole state flag or the federal flag outdated? And what part of our history in this country are we going to eliminate and call it outdated? There needs to be some standard here. And our history is history. And like the gentleman, Mr. Beckwith, made the great point, some of our history is not great history. We understand that. But it still is our history and we can't erase our history. And I don't think our flag is outdated, our traditional flag is outdated, and is our US flag going to be outdated at some point? Where do we draw the line?
So I'm getting real close to calling a vote.
Your Honor, I would
Go ahead, Wendy.
reiterate what Sean and Jackie shared. I think they made really very good points. It is the official flag. It is a state issue. And I will continue to vote that we fly the official flag. I brought this up the last time I spoke. We've been flying a state flag and nobody thought twice about it. Nobody felt any reason to bring it to this council and say, I don't like that flag. I don't think we should fly that flag. Never, not once. I've lived here since 1992. No one has come in. All of a sudden, we have a new flag and we're not going to fly a flag. It's just, it just seems to be something that we need to move on from, and I'm hoping we can do that tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make one more comment, Mayor? Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
I know the Stanley Cup is on soon.
It's not on tonight anyway, so.
Oh, sorry. I just want to relieve some anxiety by some people that feel that we're wasting our time on this topic. I don't think it's a waste of time. We have many people in this community who have made comments, sent letters, and feel it's important to them. So it's not a waste of time. And I just want to reassure people that we're not wasting our time and we're not taking away time and attention to other issues on the city council. Last month, we were here 2.5 hours and it looks like we might be there again tonight. So by discussing the flag is not going to shortcut our discussion on other issues. We will continue until all the business that we're required to perform tonight is completed.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Sir, I'm done with the comments now, okay? So I'm gonna take a roll call vote, and this time I'll start
I
on,
just have one question.
okay?
When this whole thing started, Mr. Dahlman was asked to make a motion. Was there no opportunity for anyone else to make a motion? I'm just thinking of process.
There's a motion on the table. We have to.
There is a motion on the table.
I was only asked to make the motion, is what I was curious about.
Oh.
Okay.
There can be other motions made. It can come back next month. I hope it doesn't. But
I thought some council members said we're gonna agree with what the decision is made tonight and move on.
Well,
So let's do the vote.
we'll do the vote, Aaron, for sure, but you can always make a motion at a later date too. So with that, I'm going to call the question. I'll start on my right this time with Craig.
To clarify, the motion is to not fly
By
any
either
flag.
flag, correct.
Not fly any flag. That's the motion on the table. Okay, just want to be clear.
Any Minnesota flag.
Any Minnesota flag.
Yep. Craig?
And yes, I would agree not to fly either flag.
Okay, Aaron?
I agree not to fly either flag.
Wendy?
No to the motion to not
Okay.
fly a flag.
Ron?
I agree not to fly either flag.
Jackie?
Nay to the motion.
Mike?
Nay to the motion.
Sean?
Nay to the motion.
Jay?
Aye. To fly neither flag.
So guess what?
It's you again.
It's me again. So I think if we had the full council here, number one, the motion would pass. Secondly, I think this has divided the council pretty much half and half. It's divided the city about half and half. The state polls I've read, it's divided. So I'm gonna do the King Solomon thing and I'm gonna cut the baby in half and we're not gonna have any flag. So the motion carries. So if you're done with us for the evening, if you would take any further conversation out into the lobby, and I'll just wait a few minutes while the room clears out.
I had a hard time with this one.
Didn't really want to do that, but,
I agree.
well,
I can't believe you did that.
I'm up for election in 3 years.
No, but I just,
I get irritated by people thinking that we're
I could not do it.
deviating from
Nor
business.
sit.
100% agree with you. In fact, I wrote that down because I agree
No,
with you.
I'm
It's not.
just saying.
Right before this meeting.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it too.
Chief Todd. Chief. Oh,
Yeah, he's
Okay.
shaking hands, kissing babies, but he's trying.
Yeah, speaking of due process. I'm ready to accept it. Is that what I said?
so without objection, I would like to move to Public Works Agenda Item 6G.
Okay, item 6G is consideration to.
Use the mic.
Item 6G is consideration of approving plans and specifications and authorization bids for the People's Parking Lot, and I'll call on John Pratt to give us information on that.
Mayor and council, last month and again this month, the council's considered the rezoning of this particular parcel of property located between Summit and Minnesota that we've had discussion about constructing a public parking lot on. So the next step really, since the first reading of the rezoning passed and there'll presumably be the second reading tonight, the next logical step here is to determine if the council wishes to proceed with the construction of a parking lot at this location. So we've developed plans for the parking lot and are asking the council for consideration and approval of those plans and authorization to bid this evening. I think we've got some drawings. I think we're included with the plan. We've got a rendering. If we need be, I can pull that up on the screen. If there's questions, I'll entertain those.
Mayor, just not to interject here, but I am interjecting.
Do we need to do the rezoning first?
We should do the rezoning first.
Okay. So, Ron, if you could just hold this for a minute. Which one is the rezoning, Kelsey?
Should be 5B.
Okay, without objection, then we'll put the parking lot on hold for a minute and we'll go to 5B, and that's Chairwoman Spry.
Item 5B is consideration on the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 541, rezoning R2 1 and 2 family residence to LB Lakefront Business District. Our committee reviewed this and we recommend approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 541, rezoning 1321 Summit Avenue from R2 to LB. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can go back to Ron on 6.
Okay, and
G.
Kelsey, on this, because we're spending money, do we need a supermajority on this for 6 votes?
We
then?
need 6 votes, Ron.
6 votes, then,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
So I move that we go ahead and approve plans and specs for authorizing bids for this parking lot, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the plans and specifications and authorize bids for the People's Parking Lot. Was there anything else you wanted to add, John?
No, I think we've covered a lot of it. I mean, maybe just a recap of where this came from briefly. To remind the council, the Westlake Drive project's going to eliminate parking along the north side of Westlake Drive, which removes roughly 50 to 55 public parking spaces down in that area. And so I think the original intent of this lot, which would provide 43 spots, was to at least offset mostly or in part some of that parking loss. It's a piece of property that the city owns. It's in close proximity to the beach. So from all those perspectives, it made some sense to look at a lot in this location. So with that, I can certainly entertain any questions. We have had some discussions on and off with adjacent property owners. The project would include the construction of a fence along the northerly portion of the parking lot between the lot and the adjacent residential properties. And we'd also include some vegetative screening and landscaping and things of that nature, so.
Okay, is there anybody have any questions? I know Kurt is here. He's a neighbor down in that area. Kurt, do you have anything you want to ask or you good to go? Okay. Any further comments from the
I
council?
actually do have some comments, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm actually opposed to this at this time. I mean, the city owns the property. I was for the zoning, changing it to Lakefront Business District. I'm very good with all of that. I heard from a number of business or residents in the area. There was one couple that was in favor of it. The rest were not, and there were quite a few that did contact me or contact, I guess, a bunch of city council members. I look at that, and we are losing those, those parking lots or parking spots on the north side. But there are a lot of opportunities up all of the 4 avenues that head north-south for them to park in those areas. So, and there's the fairgrounds area, and there are other opportunities. There's people, the other parking spots, parking lots as well. So I think we control it with already owning the land. I would like to probably have a couple years of seeing how parking is. I mean, if the neighbors there are opposed to it, and then they find out 2 years later that they probably would prefer that they have a parking lot to maybe alleviate those days where the traffic is parking in front of their cars, their houses, then that's the opportunity. But, so I think I guess I am not in favor of it at this time.
Okay, any further comments from the council?
Well,
I'd like to say diddle to Mike Stearns.
I just like to say that what's gonna happen is that when those people are gonna be looking for a spot to park, they're gonna be parking up in people's neighborhoods, and that's what they don't want. And the other thing we don't wanna have is these poles put back up and say permit parking only. So I feel it's gonna happen sooner than later, but all we're gonna do is end up waiting for a couple of years and having the cost of this project go way up.
Anything further from the council?
I don't think the parking lot is going to totally alleviate the parking in front of homes. It's going to help, yes, but I don't think it's going to correct the problem of parking in front of homes. However, I don't think the city should be doing any project that is detrimental to the property value of adjacent owners. And I think for Kurt, I think that his garage is going to be exactly on the property line. And I know there was some discussion about, potentially, getting him some more, or selling him some more property. But I agree with Alderman Stearns that we should maybe, watch this for a while and decide later.
Anything further? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
I'll see aye for it.
So one vote for it, and all the rest are nay? Nay? Okay, the motion does not carry. Is there anyone else in the audience that has something that they'd like to take up on the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll go back to wherever we're supposed to be. And I believe it's to go to item 4B, which is a public hearing. So at this time, I'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed property tax abatement for Chad Wendell for the purpose of a real estate development. Larry, do you have something you could introduce to the council?
This property was annexed to the city through an orderly annexation agreement with the township. The city and the property owner wanted to have this orderly annexation agreement annex the property over time as it developed, but the township wanted us to annex all of that property immediately. And so in order to provide some equity in the tax situation for the owner, the city would like to enter into an abatement agreement to provide him or to repay him a portion of the taxes so that the undeveloped property that he has in this area would be taxed at the rate that he would pay in the township. So it's kind of a backdoor way of doing the orderly annexation in a fair way for the property owner.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to either ask any questions or make a comment about the granting of a property tax abatement for the purpose of real estate development to Chad Wendell? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. Chairwoman Spry?
The Community Development Committee reviewed this at yesterday's meeting, and we recommend approval of a resolution granting a property tax abatement to Chad A. Wendell for the purpose of real estate development.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. A discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So we are, when do you want to just continue? We're at the Community Development Committee agenda.
5A, discussion regarding the request from Bridgeview Estates Shared Lot and Dock Association. The group came into the CDC meeting yesterday, shared the packet of information that we have included in our council packet. And upon lengthy discussion, we reiterated that their proper place and procedure is to bring their request for a variance to the Planning Commission. And so that matter was resolved to that degree, and if they choose to move forward, they will go through the Planning Commission process.
So no action.
So no action.
Okay.
Item 5C, consideration to a second reading and adoption of ordinance number 542, rezoning property from RA, which is Agriculture Residence District, to I1, Light Industrial District at 1160 Fortune Avenue. The committee reviewed this yesterday, and we recommend approval of that ordinance.
Second.
zone.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 542. Is there discussion?
Is there anything on that property at all right now? Is just land?
There is a building on that property now.
Okay, and what's the use for that building right now?
I believe it's just a warehouse at this
This
time.
warehouse, okay, so there's no work being done out of there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because I heard from some people that there's work being done in Santa. If that's the case, it should be more than light industrial. But anyway, I was just I think we want to check, see what's happening in there.
Okay, any further comments? We have a motion and a second on the table. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second reading is given and ordinance 542 is adopted.
Item 5D is a consideration to a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Midwest Edition at 1255 US Highway 10, Midwest Bank. This is the old Grover property out on Highway 10 West, and staff didn't indicate that there was anything problematic or concerning about the proposed plat, and the committee recommends approval.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Midwest Addition at 1255 US Highway 10. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
5E is consideration to a resolution approving the variance to allow a 20-foot setback from the property line adjacent to the road right-of-way, a setback of 43 feet from the ordinary high mark, and a 33.1% impervious surface coverage for construction of a two-story home at 1217 Westlake Drive. And before making a motion, or do you want me to do it after? There's a new motion or resolution in our packet tonight.
Correct.
After our lengthy discussion on this matter last night, but I do think it's best for the members to hear directly from Larry, because he'll do a better job of explaining the discussion.
Okay. The discussion at the Community Development Committee meeting regarding this variance request is that the setback variances seem to make sense, but they felt that approving a 33% impervious surface coverage was not something that they felt was necessary for the success of this project. And so they are recommending that the setback variances be approved, but that the variance for the 33.1% impervious surface not be approved. This would mean that the owner would have to meet the 25% impervious surface coverage or apply for a mitigation permit up to 30%.
Okay, so that's what the new resolution states, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So Wendy, do you want to make a motion?
I so move that we, I'm sorry. I lost
Okay.
track. Let me see. Okay, I move that we approve the resolution allowing the 20-foot setback of the property line as proposed in the attached resolution we were provided tonight.
Okay, so it's the new resolution.
The new resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
5F, consideration to a resolution approving a variance to allow a 2-foot setback instead of a 5-foot setback for a portion of the parking lot, which is 8 spaces, at 811 Second Street Southeast, which is Wood Fire Pizza. The committee reviewed this last night, and we recommend approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving a variance at 811 8th Street Southeast. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item 5G, consideration to the request from Highland Lakeview authorizing a 1-year extension on a conditional use permit to allow a 36-unit planned unit development in the Shoreland District at 1321 Highland Drive, 1510 Randolph Road, Highland Lakeview LLP, formerly Luminary Holdings LLP. The committee reviewed this at our meeting yesterday, and we recommend approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution from Highland Lakeview to grant a 1-year extension on a conditional use permit. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Wendy, was there one more item that we added?
And I am not finding,
I can help you with that if you'd like.
please.
Sure.
It's not in my paper.
This is a resolution supporting a regional park or trail designation. It's an application to the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. Actually, Detroit Mountain Recreation Area was designated a regional park in 2014. The reason that we're being asked to adopt this resolution at this time is that Detroit Mountain Recreation Area would like to amend its master plan, and the rules and requirements have changed since then. So the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails would like the city to adopt this new resolution for support of the designation.
Okay,
So it's basically adopting this resolution so that we can amend the master plan.
okay, Wendy.
I make a motion to pass the resolution for the designation.
Is there a second?
Find the document.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the resolution. I don't find it here either, so I'm
Here,
not
it's
going
right here.
to adopt the resolution supporting regional park or trail designation application, Greater Minnesota. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Wendy?
Nothing.
Okay, we'll move Public Works Committee, Chairman Zeman.
Okay, the next item is item 6D, is given consideration to approving the summer ice agreement with the Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Program. I'm going to call on Sean King to give us an update on that.
Mayor and council, it's just a standard summer ice agreement, same one we've pretty much had for the last couple of years, with a few increases to reflect some increases in utilities.
Okay, and it's basically it's $250 an hour plus $500 an hour for the DL when they host the performance weekend. They'll be coming up, so I so move that we go ahead with this recommendation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a summer ice agreement with the Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey Association. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So Ron, on 6A was just no action?
No, yes, that's correct. We had a
Okay.
discussion on benches and so forth downtown,
Okay.
and we got it worked out. No action on that. Item E here is consideration of resolution accepting bids for the Shorewood Drive Street and Utility Improvement Project, awarding the contract to Mark Sand and Gravel. I'll turn to John to give us an update on that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we opened bids for the Shorewood Drive Street Improvement Project on June 4th. Took 3 bids, the low bid being from Mark Sand and Gravel in the amount of $1,821,000. Project came in just a touch under what the preliminary budget was, so we had some good numbers on that. And we're recommending approval or award of the contract to Mark Sand and Gravel. I should note that this award would be contingent or conditioned on a favorable outcome of the assessment hearing that we will set in a upcoming agenda item, so.
In July then, so.
Okay.
So the committee recommends us, and I so move that we approve the bids.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the bids for the Shorewood Drive Street and Utility Improvement Project and awarding the contract to Mark Sand and Gravel with the condition that the assessment hearing is approved or we
Favorable.
adopt the assessment? Okay. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, item F is consideration resolution ordering the preparation of assessment roll for the Shorewood Drive Street Utility Project and setting a public hearing on the proposed assessment date for street utility improvement projects at our July council meeting. I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution ordering the preparation of the assessment roll for the Shorewood Drive project and setting the public hearing for our next month's council meeting. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is item H, consideration of resolution and authorizing preliminary engineering report for the Linview Estates. I'll call on John to give us an update on that.
Yep, Mayor and Council, the property owner or developer in this case has petitioned the city for a preliminary engineering study for it's about a 10-acre parcel of property that is adjacent to Shorewood Drive. As part of the Shorewood Drive project, we're actually extending sanitary sewer and water main down towards the edge of this property for the purpose of potential subdivision. And so subsequent to that sewer and water extension, the developer would like to proceed with the preliminary engineering report at this time. So
Okay, and there's gonna be 10 homes on those lots, is that correct?
the preliminary plat that was submitted is for 10 lots,
10
that's
homes.
correct.
So the committee recommends and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution authorizing a preliminary engineering report for Linview Estates. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item I, consideration of resolution accepting preliminary engineering reports for the 270th Avenue Sewer and Water Extension Improvement and setting an improvement hearing on July 8th at 5 o'clock, next month's council meeting. John, you want to give us an update on that one too?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, maybe a little bit of background on this, since we have a hearing that'll be coming up next month. In your packet was a copy of the preliminary engineering report outlining the proposed improvements to a portion of 270th Avenue. Just to frame this up here a little bit, back in 2021, with the last phase of the Lake Forest subdivision, we did about a 800-foot segment of 270th Avenue where we needed to extend sewer and water down a portion of that to service the final phase of the Lake Forest subdivision. So we installed the sanitary sewer, water main, reconstructed the road at that time. And at that time, we had actually contemplated doing this next segment that this report covers. And at that particular moment, we held back. There wasn't a lot of interest in sewer and water for some of the adjacent properties. So we had opted to just do a mill and overlay on that. And before we got to the mill and overlay, the adjacent agricultural property had sold. There was some indication that that was going to be developed. It is now being developed. Another factor that's sort of spurred this on is the other chunk of property further south on 270th Avenue has now been annexed, which you addressed here earlier this evening. And there's discussion of some development in that area, which would require sewer and water to be extended down 270th. And then finally, we have had a property owner adjacent to 270th Avenue with a failing septic has approached the city about the feasibility or possibility of getting sewer and water to their property to address that matter. So all those things led to this, and that's why we've brought this report forward. In total, we're looking at about $1 million project to extend the sewer and water down about 800 feet down 270th Avenue. So this would include the sewer, water, stormwater, street improvements. The city share of the project would be just over $500,000, with the balance being assessed to the adjacent properties. The report's got some estimates of what those assessments would look like. For a 100-foot lot, the properties for the street and the sewer and the water improvements would be looking at assessments of about $35,000. I would note, though, there are a number of properties in that area that are large parcels. They have a lot of frontage in some cases. There's some lots that are 112 feet. There are also some that are probably closer to 250 feet. So there'll be some rather large assessments associated with this. Any event, the report is in front of you for your consideration, and then we'd also be having a public hearing on that in July, where we'll notify those properties and invite them in for the public hearing in July. Did I miss anything, Kelsey?
I think you covered it all.
All right, Ron?
Okay, and like John said, this is a very important because it's on that 270th Avenue, and that's the directions the city's growing, so we definitely need to have this project done. So the committee recommends that we go ahead and accept this resolution and go on with the preliminary engineering report. And like John said, we'll be meeting here July 8th with the recommendations. I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution accepting the preliminary engineering report for 270th Avenue and setting an improvement hearing for next month's council meeting. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and then going to call on John Pratt to give us engineering monthly project report.
My apologies. I'm sure everybody's sick of listening to me at this point. There is, however, construction and things like that that are starting to wind up here. 2024 street rehabilitation project, so this is the mill and overlay and full depth reclamation project that we did last year. That's largely finished up, just some minor paving and correction items that need to take place, which would include some things out in the Willow Springs area. There's a few items that the contractor needs to correct. Southwood Shore Estates, no activity expected there until probably later July or early August. The West Downtown project, contractors started today with the final lift of paving. I'm sure that was causing a few fits for everybody. It was a little difficult to navigate around town with all the different closures, but tomorrow should be better. They'll wrap it up tomorrow, and then that project will be done in its entirety. Water tower project, been a lot of activity there as well. We are one lift away from the terminal height of the concrete column. And then, once that's complete, the crews will come in here later this month and start the steel fabrication on the ground, starting to fabricate the steel bowl that then will get set on top of that concrete column. So, Heartland State Trail, the contractor is scheduled to start work on that project, I think around June 20th was the last I had heard. That should take a month or month and a half to complete, but not really any big impacts with that. Forest Street also started today, so yet another obstacle for people to navigate around, but the contractor did start working on some of the demolition and removals with that project, and that will last probably a couple of months. Westlake Drive Phase 3, we continue to make progress on that. Again, most of the work as of recently has been centered on the beach improvements and taking the comments and feedback that we've got from public meetings and workshop meetings and trying to move that ahead. We have a workshop scheduled for later this week where we'll present sort of the status of that before we try to make the final push to finalize those plans. DMRA Legacy Grant Project, if you've been up to the mountain, they are working on construction of that parking lot, and then they'll move to the Nordic Trail and snowmaking infrastructure a little bit later. We've already talked about Sherwood Drive. Trunk Highway 10 East Shore Drive intersection study. We continue to have roughly monthly meetings with MnDOT and the township regarding that study, and I think they're looking at having some form of public input or public meeting sometime in August on that. We'll keep the council up to speed. We've already discussed 270th Avenue. You can take People's Park off of here. And we've also talked about the Brislin subdivision or the Linview Estates subdivision. So that's it, Mayor.
Okay, anybody have any questions for John?
I make a motion, we go ahead and approve John's report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the city engineer's monthly project status report. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a couple other items here, the
Right.
ones that I added to the agenda.
Yep.
The first one is from Public Works, and I'm going to call on Sean for information on new mowers.
Mayor and council, yes, this is for a new mower out at the Public Works building. Last year, we decided instead of getting rid of an old park mower, we would keep a park mower. Problem is that mower is a little too large for getting between trees and some of them slide slopes. So we're just looking at a smaller type mower, and we will sell that parks mower.
Okay, the committee reviewed this, and we so moved to go ahead and then purchase the one in the amount of $8,140. I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to purchase a new mower for the Public Works building. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next item I have is a transit merchant license for Patrick Rahula. I make a motion to go ahead and accept that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been hard to get seconds tonight. Yeah. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Ron?
That's all for now. Yes, we do have, we did pull one here. Item 6N, and there was consideration to approve a special event application for the Detroit Lakes Regional Chamber of Commerce, and it's for their Crazy Days coming up on August 5th. So it's, make a motion to go ahead and approve that special event application by the Chamber of Commerce for Crazy Days on August 5th. Nice move.
Second.
Motion's
And
been,
Mayor,
go ahead,
yeah,
Jackie.
I just would need to rescind from that since I'm the one that put in the application, so probably shouldn't vote on it. So I will
Well,
rescind.
We still want Crazy Days, even if you voted on it.
Yeah, I know, we're gonna have crazy days.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Abstaining, Jackie, right? Motion carries. That, does it, Ron?
That's all,
good
yeah.
there? Okay. We're up to the Finance Committee and the acting chair.
Yes,
Chairman
Mr. Mayor,
Stearns.
we have item 7B remaining on the agenda. The city put out a request for proposal to lease some old Public Works facility space located on Front Street. We did receive a bid from the Becker County for the amount of $2,000 a month. Their request that it would be beginning July 1st, but we do have to give a little bit prior notice to the current tenants, so it might be a little bit later. But the Finance Committee discussed it, and we recommend approval of the proposed lease, and I so move.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt, to approve a proposal to lease the old warehouse building at the old Public Works facility. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I've got a question for Kelsey and the staff. How are we coming with the dental people in the front part of that building?
Mayor and council, they've been in there, they're painting, getting it remodeled, getting ready to open July 1.
Oh, very good.
Okay, anything else, Mike?
No, nothing, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll move to the Public Safety Committee, Chairman Dahlman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Hansen can come up here. We should probably tell people why we're spending $1 million on, if they have any questions on, but not 8A is consideration to approving the purchase of a fire truck. And then after Mr. Hansen tells us what we're buying, Kelsey Clem can kind of give you an idea if we miss anything. Go ahead, Chief.
Perfect. Yep. So as you see in your packet, it is $1 million now, which obviously we all saw and aren't very happy with, but that's the cost of them nowadays after getting bids from different companies. That's about what it came in as. We decided to go with Rosenbauer. We're a fully Rosenbauer fleet. We have Rosenbauer Service Center at Swanson's right in town, so we don't have to take it to Fargo. So that's why we're staying with Rosenbauer in efforts to try and cut costs without compromising the function of the vehicle. We kind of came up with a little bit of a plan, talking with Heidi and Kelsey about prepaying for this engine. So if we do prepay for this engine, they give us a 6%-ish discount, which is gonna be roughly $70,000-ish dollars. This is in our capital budget. It's just not until 2027, because the lead times on these trucks is in our contract that you see in front of you is 575 days. And so that's why we start this process early, like it is now. We still, even if we prepay, we're still not gonna get it for 575 days at least. And so, yeah, happy to answer any questions about what the truck is. It really closely mirrors the truck we just built and one that Audubon just built, and there's really nothing special about it. It's just the cost of equipment is going up.
Questions for Chief Hansen? All right, Chief, we gotta do it.
And the Public Safety Committee unanimously agreed to spend $1 million on a new fire truck for the fire department.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of a new fire truck. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Anything else on the agenda, Aaron?
Nope, no, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll go to the Liquor and Gambling Control Committee, Chairman Stearns.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have item 9A, consideration of the sponsorship of the July 4th fireworks. Also, on there, there's a discussion of what has been contributed by the the liquor fund over the prior years. 2024, the amount was $5,000. Liquor and Gambling Control Committee did have a discussion, and we recommend approval at a $6,000 contribution amount, and I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to donate $6,000 from the liquor fund for the July 4th fireworks. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mike, is there anything else there? Otherwise, you can jump right into the public utility stuff.
Moving on down the line, Public Utilities Commission met this morning, and there was discussion regarding the FES agreement with the Western Area Power Administration. And there are two sections, B and C, that need to be updated due to changes in the public utilities. I am going to make a motion for the consideration to updating the exhibits to the FES with WAPA, as Mr. Roberts is always good about calling it. I so move, and I so move.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to update the exhibits to the FES with WAPA. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so we have item 10B. There's the consideration to a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of approximately just under $18 million of electric revenue bonds for the Series 2025B. I'm not just going to gloss over this one. I'll have Mr. Roberts and Heidi discuss this one in a little more detail.
Heidi, I'll let you lead off, and then I'll fill in with some of the technical stuff if need be.
Sure. So, Mayor and Council, before you is a resolution, consideration to a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of just under 18 million of electric revenue bonds. This is for the new generation and substation expansion projects that we've been discussing recently. Vernell and I have been looking at doing what we needed to do for financing for this project. And we're looking at right around that $17 million for the actual unit itself. There is a potential that this number might change slightly before it is finalized, but at this point, this is the resolution we've got put forward for you. We are looking at doing a bond rating sometime in late July with a bond sale at the same day as the August meetings, which is August 12th. Happy birthday to me. And so that would be what we're looking at doing. The electric revenue bonds, again, we haven't sold revenue bonds for the electric fund in quite some time. It's been since 2012. So we're going to have to do some chatting with our bond rating agencies about the financial health of the fund and how things have changed, because things have changed pretty substantially in the last several years. And so we're looking at hopefully getting several upticks from our previous rating to hopefully get us some good interest rates. Anything else? What am I missing?
No, I think you got it. Fitch and Moody's would be the two agencies that will request ratings from. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions if you have on the technical details of what it is or repayment schedules or anything like that.
So Heidi, did you say that the rating would be on the public utilities or would be on the city?
So it's mainly on public utilities because that's the funding source
Okay.
that would be paying back these funds. There's no general obligation on these funds, so it's not backed by the city's full faith and taxing credit. The revenues that will be paying back these bonds will come directly from the unit itself through our agreement with Missouri River. That will pay for a large portion of that
Okay.
debt service, and then also some of the electric revenues just from the operation.
All right, any questions by the council?
I've got a question.
We need a motion.
When will these substations be ready to serve the community? And how much more power will it give us to last us for how many more years?
We are not expanding the transformer capacity at the old industrial sub. It's going to be called the new jet sub. But this is replacing the generation of the old jet turbine that sits down by the
Downtown,
liquor store.
okay. All
So
right.
we're adding about 3.4 megawatts, 3.6 megawatts to the capacity over the old unit. And commercial operation date is targeted for December of 2026.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, before we have any more discussion, Mike, we better get a motion
Sure.
second.
So item 10B, consideration to a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of approximately $17,985,000 electrical revenue bonds, Series 2025B. Public Utilities Commission discussed, and I so move for approval.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution providing for the issuance and sale of electric revenue bonds. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Kelsey, item 11A and B, you want to explain those individually to the council, and we'll take action on each one?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, 11A is the second reading, adding civil enforcement. Just another tool in the toolbox to enforce any of our city code. Item B is amending our city code dealing with administrative appeal, basically removing city employees from that section, as city employees already have their grievance process spelled out in their personnel policy and in their contracts. So it's just removing that from the administrative code. So again, same as the first reading last month.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for item 11A first.
I so moved for item A.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 540. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then I would also entertain a motion for item 11B.
I make a motion for ordinance number B, ordinance 543, I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to give second reading and adopt ordinance 543. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, and ordinance 543 is adopted. I don't have recommendations for A and B on the appointments, but I do have two additional appointments for the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. There's a seat that's going to be vacated by Chris Jaskin and also a seat vacated by Linnea Lindquist. I'd like to recommend the name of Natalie Bly to fill the vacated seat of Chris Jaskin, and Carol Eblin, who's also known as Sister Patrice, to fill the seat of Linnea Lindquist. So I would recommend those two individuals.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Natalie Bly and Carol Eblin, known as Sister Patrice, to the HRA Board. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Just a reminder that this Thursday at 4 PM, we're going to have a city council work session. Kelsey, you want to mention anything about that, or?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I hope everyone's excited and jazzed up to get together again Thursday night at 4 o'clock.
We should be recovered by then.
John mentioned, we'll give an update on the Westlake Drive project and the beachfront improvements. That'll be our first agenda item. And then the second agenda item is going to be we've had a kind of a task force meeting, talk about our housing study that was updated last year, and basically trying to develop some action steps on how we can meet those recommendations that were outlined in that housing study. So, basically trying to keep that study alive and actually do something with it instead of just sitting on the shelf. So we're going to basically share with the council some of the findings, some of the things we learned through that task force, and some recommended action steps. The third thing, kind of by request, there was some discussion about, what is this thing called our MS4 permit? Why do we issue things like stormwater permits? What is a mitigation permit? That's actually our shoreland ordinance. So we're going to kind of do an MS4 101. We're going to talk a little bit about why we are an MS4 regulated city, what that means, what's included in that permit, what are the type of permits we issue. We'll talk about fun things like St. Clair Lake and our waste load allocation and how that impacts our permit and some of the things we have to work towards that. So those are the three things we have planned for Thursday.
All right. A couple of other items. The joint governance meeting dates are listed, and the balance of the 2025 city council meetings are also listed in your agenda. The only date of note that we should call attention to is that we would be meeting on Monday, November 10th. We're meeting on Monday, November 10th?
Right, because Veterans Day is Tuesday.
Veterans Day is Tuesday, okay. So just make note of that. Is there any other of the city staff that has anything they wish to bring to the attention of the council?
Mayor Carey is giving me a glare here.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to mention for the work session, please bring back your Chromebooks. Hopefully you know where they're at.
Is that this thing?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
turn that in. We got new laptops for the council, so we'll have those ready for Thursday.
Is there gonna be a tutorial? Okay, sounds good.
We figured this one out.
Okay, if there's no city staff items, Craig, anything you want to add tonight?
No, just thanks for the support on the Minnesota Flyers. Great organization, and I just really appreciate that. So.
Okay, Aaron?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Okey doke. Wendy?
I just have a couple of statements that I'm going to share.
Okay.
Tonight was really, really disappointing, and I've been trying to sort out why it was disappointing. And I know when I first started on council, we got training on open meeting laws and not talking strings to strings to strings, and it felt a little tonight like that was kind of ignored, like there were probably some conversations occurring amongst members or something, and it makes me uncomfortable because I try to work with integrity and follow the rules and do all of that, and I purposely stay out of situations where I might be put in a position to be having those conversations so that everything is transparent and above board. So that's been bothering me. And this might get me in a whole ton of trouble, but I'm gonna say it because I never brought it up once. I've had letters to this effect, that there was some reasons that that flag was changed. And I never bring race into the conversation, and I'm not really bringing it in today. But I will say this. I grew up in White Earth. I'm a member of the White Earth Nation, a proud member of that nation, shown a lot of resilience. We've gone through a lot over the hundreds of years, whatever. Don't bring it into my work here. I keep it aside. I do not bring it to the table. Haven't once. When I moved here in 1992, this is the reaction I got when my husband wanted to move here. I was like, they don't like us. I don't want to move to that community. And I pushed and pushed and pushed to him and said, no, I want to stay on the res. He talked me into coming here. I've lived here for 32 years. Several years ago, I had a conversation with people outside the community, not the White Earth community, but around. And I defended this community with everything I had, that this has been a lovely community to raise my family in. I still believe that. It's a good community. But on the last couple of years, I have experienced a couple of occasions where that didn't feel so true anymore, and tonight's one of them. I've had an occasion where a particular department didn't want to apply for a grant because they had to ask for they had to answer diversity questions. Kept it to myself. Talked to a couple of people, wanted to ask somebody, is this something we should be looking at? Nope, okay, stepped aside, never make it an issue. And I'm not really making an issue tonight, except there was a description of our flag, and that flag was a farmer and wheat fields and forestry and not one mention of the American Indian person on that flag. And I thought that was telling because it was so easy to miss for that person. It was so easy to look at your own experience as a white person. I tell my son, you are so lucky. You are blonde and blue-eyed and light-skinned, and you get to float through this world so easily. And so I went through a little PTSD tonight. I am not gonna lie. I felt like this community, whom I have defended and loved, turned its back on unity and welcomeness, and I could not. Disappointed is the easiest word I can share with you all tonight, and I'm not gonna break, but I gotta share that with all of you because it's gonna be really hard for me to show up in this place with you people. I've had one of the members text me in the nighttime telling me they're gonna fight me over this, and I'm like, what world am I in? Where did the welcoming happen? I've said it, and I'm gonna leave it there, and that's, I'm done. I could not be more disgusted is a better word than disappointed. I'm sorry, people. I wasn't gonna do it, but I had to.
Okay, Ron?
For quite a few years since I've been on the city council, I've always felt that the city council should do a vote to have a citywide cleanup. And many communities do it, Fargo, Moorhead, Fergus Falls, and in the last couple of years, looking around Detroit Lakes neighborhoods, and it's not just north side, south, it's many neighborhoods. We've got a lot of backyards that are starting to look like junkyards. And we've got Priscilla going out and calling on some of these, but there's getting to be a point where we've got a lot of them. we could have 5 Priscilla's going around town and telling people we gotta get our yards cleaned, because when you start getting to be an awful sight and you have to live next door to it, it makes it very, very troubling. And I have neighbors that call me that live by that house across from the Baptist church where they got all that paper on their house, and we were told that was probably going to come down. But how would you like to live next door to a house like that and you're afraid to go out because the neighbors in those houses? I think we've got to be a little more conscientious of our neighborhoods, and we want to keep them clean. We want our city to be beautiful. So I'm hoping when August comes, yes, it's going to cost some money and it's going to take some work, but I'm hoping we can maybe do a cleanup in Detroit Lakes a year from now, next spring, and get our neighborhoods cleaned up and get a lot of this garbage out and get it put in the dumps where they belong. So I'm just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, Jackie? No. Mike?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
John? No, sir. Jay? The business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.